We begin first, though, with some news involving the Mets and Jeurys Familia, who was arrested for an alleged domestic violence charge. According to a complaint filed by authorities in a Fort Lee municipal court, Familia caused bodily injury to another. The Mets reliever was charged with simple assault, a disorderly persons offense. The incident apparently happened on Monday, and even if he is not convicted, he will most likely face punishment from Major League Baseball. Now, the Mets released this statement after hearing of the ordeal. Quote, "The matter was brought to our attention and we are monitoring the situation," end quote. For more on this ordeal, let's welcome in our MLB insider, Andy Martino. Andy, what was your reaction to hearing this news initially?
Well, Michelle, my initial reaction really was surprise. I've known Jeurys Familia for years, really, since he was a minor leaguer. The first thought that comes into your head is he's just the nicest guy, sweetest guy, not only to the media, but to teammates, coaches, fans. A dad who became a dad just last year, who's really, really super sweet and into that. But, of course, the second thought, Michelle, was that you really shouldn't assume that you know what goes on in anybody's marriage or home or private life. And, of course, you know, human beings are complex. And of course, these remain allegations. But if they prove to be true, it's just another reminder that what we see of people, ourselves included, isn't the whole picture. And, unfortunately, this one has taken a dark turn.
Of course, now we're going to think about how this affects him now in his career. If he does get suspended, what could happen to the Mets bullpen?
Well, it's a tough blow to start the season if they don't have their closer. And there's really going to be a situation where an Addison Reed just would get bumped up to pitch the ninth inning, and they'd be a little thinner in the setup role. Talking to Mets people just in the past couple days, they're not expecting to go for a closer. They're not expecting to pursue a Kenley Jansen or an Aroldis Chapman. There's been some call for that because Familia struggled in the postseason, but they look at Familia as a guy who may have been a little bit overused last year, but will still be the closer. So Sandy Alderson's not going out and giving a free agent a 3-year deal to close games because Familia may be suspended for a month or two. So the Mets are just going to have to get by, and Familia, of course, is going to lose the pay. It's going to be an embarrassing and difficult situation for him, as it was for his teammate Jose Reyes when he had that suspension, but the Mets are just going to have to try to deal with it.
Of course, another concern is what kind of an effect would the uncertainty have on the Mets' offseason moves?
You know, I don't see how this would impact the Mets offseason too much because, again, I don't think they're pursuing a closer or a big-time reliever. And to pivot on the offseason question, Michelle, the Mets offseason begins and ends with what they're going to do with Yoenis Cespedes. They're going to look for an answer. He's going to opt out of his contract, of course. The Mets are going to pursue him. The Mets are going to look for an answer on Cespedes by, like, the winter meetings. They want to be quicker about it than they were last year when he didn't sign until January. So they're going to be super focused on the Cespedes situation. Of course, dealing with fallout from whatever we learn about Jeurys Familia, but just in terms of X's and O's and what Alderson does with his offseason, I don't see this playing a huge role.
Do you think the Mets would ever cut ties with Familia?
I don't see that because, you know, well, a couple reasons. This is somebody who is an essential player to them, and sadly, I think in sports, not of course to comment on the Mets, but in terms of really all teams, production is first and foremost, and Familia gives them a lot of production. Also, this is a guy who I'm sure they're going to wait and find out what all the facts are. He's been a tremendous citizen in Major League Baseball and as a Met so far. That's not, of course, to excuse any of these allegations, but they're going to pump the brakes and see what the facts are, I'm sure, and MLB is going to do their due diligence as well before anybody does anything rash. And I'm sure that if he is suspended, he'll be a part of the Mets following that suspension.